Manchester City given Rodri reassurance but 4 players to miss Brentford, despite training boost Manchester City injury latest, as Pep Guardiola provides an update on Rodri following the 2-2 Champions League draw with Monaco. Manchester City boss Pep Guardiola confirmed Rodri was replaced against Monaco in the Champions League to manage his minutes rather than a fresh injury. The 29-year-old sat out the weekend Premier League win over Burnley with pain in his knee, having missed most of last season with a serious knee injury. He returned to the side in France, but was replaced on the hour by Nico Gonzalez. But Guardiola, who said in the build-up to the European tie that he doubted Rodri could play 3 games in a week, said there were no issues with the midfielder ahead of this weekend's Premier League trip to Brentford. Here's the latest City injury news. The Spaniard played against Monaco, completing 60 minutes. Guardiola warned that the 29-year-old is not currently fit to play enough to play 3 games in a week, having felt pain in his knee after doing just that earlier this month. But speaking after the game, the City chief was positive on his star man. The Uzbekistan international had made the right-back spot his own in the past few weeks, with 3 successive starts in that position. But he was forced off injured at half-time in the draw with Arsenal and is unlikely to return before the international break. Marmoush suffered an injury in the 4th minute of Egypt's goalless draw with Burkina Faso in September. He tried to carry on, but was withdrawn 5 minutes later. He returned to Cairo on crutches and underwent a scan in Egypt to assess the extent of the damage. City have since confirmed the 26-year-old will be out for a few weeks, and while they were hopeful he could return prior to the international break, it is understood he is targeting the Everton game when the Premier League returns from a 2-week hiatus. The France international returned to training with City on Tuesday, but is not yet ready to return and did not travel for the Monaco match. He will not be risked for the weekend trip to Brentford either. The view within City remains that the clash with the Toffees 2 weeks later is his more likely return date. Ait Nouri suffered an ankle injury in the early stages of his home debut against Tottenham. The £31 million summer signing from Wolves played against Brighton, but did not join up with the Algeria squad for their World Cup qualifiers against Botswana and Guinea earlier this month. The Algerian is not expected to return to training until the end of the October international break at the earliest. That could potentially put him in the frame to face Everton as he aims for a return to action next month.
Manchester City player ratings versus Monaco, with 3 6 out of 10s as Erling Haaland. Good Manchester City player ratings from their Champions League game with Monaco, as Erling Haaland scored twice in a 2-2 draw. Manchester City were pegged back twice by Monaco in the Champions League, with a late penalty denying them a win. The Blues were not at their best in the Principality, although Erling Haaland was close to his and scored twice. City felt like those goals should have given them the win, but Monaco kept themselves in the game and were rewarded late on when Nico Gonzalez was adjudged to have kicked Dier with a high boot challenging at a free kick. Dier picked himself up to earn his team a point.
Bernardo Silva clear on his future as hint dropped with Manchester City contract ending. I know. Manchester City midfielder Bernardo Silva was asked about his future with less than 12 months remaining on his contract. Bernardo Silva has already decided whether he will be leaving Manchester City next summer when his contract runs out. The 31-year-old was made captain by Pep Guardiola this season as the manager looked to restore some aspects of leadership that he felt had been lost last year. Kyle Walker started the campaign as skipper, but left in January to join AC Milan before moving to Burnley in the summer, and his replacement Kevin De Bruyne struggled with injuries. Silva earned more respect from his manager for never going hiding during City's slump in form last season, and is putting everything into getting the team back to where they want to be. 3 points in Monaco on Wednesday will give them 2 wins from 2 in the Champions League and give them the best possible start as they look to avoid the embarrassment of failing to make the knockout rounds last year. However, it is unclear how long Silva will be sticking around for. His contract runs out in 2026. He has long been linked with a return to boyhood club Benfica, while this week there has been speculation about a move to the Saudi Pro League. Silva said that his mind is made up, but he will be putting his energy this season into getting City back to where they need to be. I know exactly what I'm going to do, but it's not the time to talk about it. It's time to focus on Man City, to try to do my best to try to put the club back where it belongs. He said on his return to former club Monaco, "We know that we've had a lot of captains who have left in the past, but it's the guys who have the most experience to pass it to the young guys, and hopefully they will be the next ones to pass that experience. I'm focused on doing a proper season with Man City and doing as well as possible to perform and bring back the team to the level it deserves to be." As first captain, you need to make sure that some things don't happen and create that kind of environment. But what we see and what we saw in the past in this group is great characters, and that's what you need. My job now is to try to create that energy and chemistry back as a group of captains, so people behave in the right way in training and games, arrive early, train properly, take care of themselves. That's our job, but in terms of responsibility, you need more than just 1 or 2 or 3. We were really good in the past because we had 10 or 15 players like that behaved as captains, and that's what you need. Manchester City confirmed 21-man squad for Monaco trip as Rodri and Ryan Cherki. Decisions made. Manchester City have selected a 21-man squad for the Champions League trip to Monaco, and Pep Guardiola had a decision to make on Rodri. Rodri is set to feature for Manchester City in Monaco after the midfielder was included in Pep Guardiola's 21-man squad for the Champions League fixture. The 29-year-old felt pain in his knee on Friday that forced him out of the Premier League win against Burnley and set off fresh fitness fears, with the issue affecting the knee in which he suffered an ACL injury last September. But Rodri came through Tuesday's training session without any issues and is fit enough to be part of the squad that flew out to the French Riviera on Tuesday afternoon. Ryan Cherki also made his return to training on Tuesday after recovering from a thigh injury, but the £34 million summer signing isn't included in the matchday squad. Cherki hasn't played since August 23rd and returned from injury earlier than expected. City will continue to build up his fitness carefully, and the France international could feature against Brentford on Sunday. Mateo Kovacic is included, however, and the Croatian could make his first appearance of the season after surgery on an Achilles injury picked up in May. Kovacic was on the bench against Burnley at the weekend but didn't get on the pitch. Teenager Divine Mukasa is also in the squad for the league phase fixture at the Stade Louis II, as he continues to become a key fixture in the first-team squad. But there is no place for Emilio Lawrence, the 20-year-old who trained with the senior setup on Tuesday. Manchester City handed major double fitness boost ahead of Monaco Champions League tie. 2 Manchester City players returned to training on Tuesday to hand Pep Guardiola a boost ahead of the Champions League trip to Monaco. Manchester City have been handed a major fitness boost after Rodri and Ryan Cherki returned to training ahead of the Champions League trip to Monaco on Wednesday. Rodri missed the weekend win against Burnley after complaining of pain in his knee in Friday's training session. The 29-year-old was feeling the problem in the same knee that he injured last September, as he continues to work his way back to full fitness. But he was the first player to be out on the grass at the City Football Academy on Tuesday morning, kicking a ball around and chatting with fitness coach Lorenzo Bonaventura. Rodri then took part in the session with the rest of the squad. He was joined by Cherki, who is closing in on a return to action, having been out with a thigh injury since the final week of August. The £34 million midfielder started against Tottenham, but was then ruled out of the trip to Brighton at the end of August and was expected to be absent for 2 months. But his recovery has gone better than expected, and Tuesday was his first day back in full training, with the potential for a return to action either against Monaco on Wednesday night or at Brentford in the Premier League on Sunday. Mateo Kovacic continued his recovery as he seeks a first appearance since May, having undergone Achilles surgery this summer. Calvin Phillips was also part of the session. The midfielder isn't in the club's Champions League squad, but continues to train and is available for Premier League fixtures. City remain without a trio of first-team players, with Abdulkadir Kusanov, Ryan Ait-Nouri and Omar Marmoush missing. All 3 could be available again after the international break. Gianluigi Donnarumma and James Trafford both trained on Tuesday, but there was no sign of Stefan Ortega or Marcus Bettinelli. All 4 goalkeepers had trained with the squad prior to the win against Napoli. Starring against Manchester United and idolising Pogba, inside the rise of Manchester City prospect, massive potential. When Manchester City youngster Floyd Samba settles down to watch the Blues play Monaco in the Champions League, his eyes might be drawn to the French club. Paul Pogba is unlikely to feature against the Blues on Wednesday night as he builds up full fitness following a doping ban, but the midfielder may well be in attendance at the Stade Louis II. Samba, a City midfielder catching the eye in the academy, grew up idolising Pogba and trying to base his game on a player who, at the time, could lay claim to being one of the best midfielders around. Samba, now 16, is beginning to carve his own path. He scored twice for City's under-18s in their 4-2 comeback win over Manchester United at the weekend to extend their perfect league record to 5 wins from 5. The teenager will now turn his attention to a youth league game in France on Tuesday as City seek to build on their opening 2-0 win over Napoli, a game in which Samba scored the opener. He produced a dazzling performance on his tournament debut against the Serie A side. One of the youngest players on the pitch was also one of the most imposing. "My idol is Pogba. Pogba's my favourite player of all time," Samba said, speaking to the MEN after that 2-0 win. "Just the way he plays, I try to be as composed as him as well. His quality is top, technique and everything. Tall as well, like me. Especially with passing ability, technique, everything is just top, so I look